तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं शरवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि गणन्ति पुरिराजनः. Your words are like nectar, bring life to scorched souls. They are praised by poets and remove all sin. They are auspicious to hear, wonderful and exalted. Those who spread these words throughout the world are truly giving souls. Welcome, everyone, to our class on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We're on chapter 19, The Master and His Injured Arm. This is page 383, and it is Saturday, February 2nd, 1884. We've just finished last time a very long section. It actually was 2 chapters that ended Dakshineshwar Part 1 and Part 2. That was that very long period that M had staying in Dakshineshwar with Sri Ramakrishna. And that was about 3.5 weeks. Something like that. Yeah. So now, February 2nd, this means that it's almost a month after that. So we never know for sure if M visited Sri Ramakrishna in between, because he had to pick and choose what things he wanted to record and what things he wanted to publish. Good chance that he took a little break. Maybe he couldn't go in between. This is a period when M, of course, was very seriously recording everything, and we get a lot of things. So anyhow, this is just our guess whether this is actually the very next visit, but it's the next recorded visit that we have, Saturday, February 2nd, 1884. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Sri Ramakrishna had been conversing with Rakal, Mahimacharun, Hajara, and other devotees when M entered the room and saluted him. He brought with him splint, pad, and lint to bandage the master's injured arm. So either M had been there in between or was told that he had hurt his arm and was asked to bring these things. One day, while going toward the pine grove, Sri Ramakrishna had fallen near the railing and dislocated a bone in his left arm. He had been in an ecstatic mood at that time, and no one had been with him. This was a very bad injury, probably compound fracture. And when we look at the photograph, it looks like it didn't heal exactly straight, his arm. You can see a little bit. And I don't know if he talks about it here, I don't remember, but we know what happened, that Sri Ramakrishna suddenly went into some type of ecstatic mood where he was thinking about this Jagannath Puri, and there's some tradition that one should embrace Jagannath there. I think Chaitanya Dev did when he went to Puri. Anyhow, so the master in that ecstatic mood, even though his mind everything is taking place in this ecstatic state, still the body is reacting somehow. So somehow trying to embrace the image in his mind, in this state of ecstasy, the body also went forward and he fell, and he broke his arm. And so this is what happened at that time. And it was very, very significant in the mind of Sri Ramakrishna, because he mentioned many times after that he felt that the Divine Mother was giving him a signal, that she was telling him that you've had enough of this ecstasy, seeing God with the eyes closed in some ecstatic mood, that now is the time to see God with eyes open, dwelling within all beings, this Nara Lila. And he used to quote Vaishnav Charan. The Vaishnav Charan used to say that this is the highest state when one sees God dwelling within human beings. And Sri Ramakrishna would say, now I realized that he was right, as if the Divine Mother was trying to teach me that. She had me break my arm. But we'll see. He's not very happy with the Divine Mother for this whole thing. Master to him. Hello, what was ailing you? Are you quite well now? Okay, so now we can guess that this long gap of 4 weeks was probably because M wasn't well. And Thakur got news of it, but probably he hadn't seen him in between. M, yes, sir, I am all right now. Master, to Mahima. Well, if I am the machine and God is its operator, then why should this have happened to me? Now, we shouldn't take this as some philosophical or metaphysical doubt or question in the mind of Sri Ramakrishna. This is a very common attitude that the devotee of the Divine Mother takes sometimes. There's man abhiman, it's called sometimes, that one can quarrel with the Divine Mother, one can feel a little bit hurt, one can have a little pique, one can even say, Mother, that I won't look at you anymore, like a small child. So because this happened, Thakur's in that mood now of the small child, and not that he has any doubt. But the other thing is that it's good for us to also understand that we don't know why things happen. And very often tragedy happens. We don't know why. For very good people, every once in a while, people will come to us with some great, terrible tragedy, and they'll feel guilty. What did we do that this happened to us? And we have all of our theories about why things happen. God's will, karma, chance, all sorts of theories, but we really don't know. And it's best not to try to figure it out too much, and best not to feel guilty, to blame ourselves too much. If we like this idea, no one but me to blame, the karma idea, that's okay. But we shouldn't feel guilty about these things. Anyhow, this is very nice, like a little child, is very unhappy with mother. Well, if I am the machine and God is its operator, then why should this have happened to me? Every time Thakur talks in with this type of language, we know that he's thinking of God as mother, even if the translation may say he or just God, thinking of the divine mother. The master was sitting on the couch, listening to the story of Mahimacharan's pilgrimage. Mahima had visited several holy places 12 years before. Mahima. I found a brahmachari in a garden at Chikrol in Benares. He said he had been living there for 20 years, but did not know its owner. Now, garden, it's not like we have a house with a little garden. Sometimes there'll be these big estates, and there'll be a whole garden area, and they know that sadhus can come. Sometimes they'll even have some hut where they can stay and everything. We know at least one instance with Ram and Surendra. They both had kind of garden homes near each other, and one sadhu was staying there. They could just camp out or something, and they didn't have to ask for permission, and the owners usually knew it and were happy. This was a kind of arrangement, especially in a place like Varanasi, Benares. He asked me if I worked in an office. On my answering in the negative, he said, then are you a wandering holy man? I saw a sadhu on the bank of the Narmada. He repeated the Gayatri mentally. It so thrilled him that the hair on his body stood on end. And when he repeated the Gayatri and Om aloud, it thrilled those who sat near him and caused their hair to stand on end. The master was in the mood of a child. In being hungry, see, this arm, it was a very, very painful thing. They didn't really have this type of anesthesia that we have now. They couldn't set it the way that we set it. They had to. Actually, I knew somebody who he fell and landed on his elbow off a ladder. And the doctors, for some reason, they just wrapped the whole thing tightly. And it was so horribly painful for him. that he had to actually take it off, and then he went back and they put a cast and everything. But it wasn't like today how things are treated. So he was in the mood of a child. Being hungry, he said to him, "What have you brought for me?" Looking at Rakal, he went into samadhi. He was gradually coming down to the normal plane. To bring his mind back to the consciousness of the body, he said, "I shall eat jalebi. I shall drink some water." Jalebi was probably his favorite sweet. He liked sweets. The very famous sweetmeat shop in Kamarpukur that sells the jalebis that was there from Thakur's time even. Weeping like a child, he said to the Divine Mother, "O Brahmamai, O Mother, why hast thou done this to me? My arm is badly hurt." To the devotees, "Will I be all right again?" See, Thakur had so many different moods that he could go into samadhi, come back down, and there's no pain or anything. This is in this very ordinary type of mood where he's really identified with this physical body, almost the way ordinary people are. Almost, of course, quite differently, but still. And we find very often that the smallest little thing, that Thakur will be concerned. And again, this is all just that need for him to be identified with the body, so the mind isn't always flying off into samadhi. It wasn't that he had any attachment to the body or anything like that, but he almost had to be in that state to keep the mind from going into these ecstatic moods all of the time. We have that one very funny instance where his leg was a little bit swollen, a little puffy, and so that if he pressed it, it made a little dimple, little impression. So everybody, he came, he said, "Look at this. When I press a little dimple, you press your leg there. Let me see if you have a dimple there also." And then one did. He said, "Oh, okay. Yeah, I also have a dimple when I do it." He said, "Ah, okay, then I feel relieved." So just like a child, he would get in this childlike mood. To the devotees, "Will I be all right again?" They consoled him as one would a child and said, "Surely you will be quite well again." Master to Rakal, "You aren't to blame for it, though you are living here to look after me." Yeah, that was ostensibly that was the purpose, that Rakal was there to serve Sri Ramakrishna. Thakur did need somebody. Latu was probably also, that was his purpose of being there, Rakal, but it was really for Thakur to train them up. It was both. Not that he didn't need somebody to serve him, but he used to say, "Look here, Rakal is here to serve me." I end up serving him because he was going into ecstatic moods and things like that. So it's a bit of a play, this idea that they're here to serve him. They were here to enhance their spiritual life also. But in addition to that, they were supposed to be with him. And one thing about serving Sri Ramakrishna meant standing near him so that if he went into an ecstatic mood, he wouldn't fall. This was the main job when Babu Ram came, Swami Premananda, because Sri Ramakrishna went through a period where he was so sensitive to purity and impurity, the touch of someone who wasn't so sensitive, that it was only Babu Ram who could hold him up in that state, Swami Premananda. He was such a pure soul that even the other direct disciples, how much he loved Swamiji and how much he loved Rakal and all of them, but he needed Babu Ram. He said, "I want him there because he pured his very bones." So that was one of the reasons why these sevaks, attendants, were there to make sure that he didn't fall down. Walking, sometimes they would have to hold him, or he would put his hand on their shoulder because he could start reeling like a drunkard, or go into a mood and just not be aware of anything and fall down. So they had to be there to support him. So Master to Rakal, you aren't to blame for it, though you were living here to look after me. For even if you had accompanied me, you certainly wouldn't have gone up to the railing. This is where the fall took place, outside of his room. The master again went into a spiritual mood and said, Om, Om, Om. Mother, what is this that I am saying? Don't make me unconscious, mother, with the knowledge of Brahman. Now, this is another strange thing. This idea of the knowledge of Brahman. For Sri Ramakrishna, this was the ultimate goal, is to have that realization of oneness, to reach that state where we don't make any distinction. We see Brahman everywhere. The highest state, this we can say Brahmajnana. But for Sri Ramakrishna, that this, when he's talking about Brahmajnana here, he means that nirvikalpa state. He means entering into that state where he doesn't see anything. He can't converse with the devotees. He can't fulfill his mission, really. That he wanted the mind to be a slightly lower level so that he could talk with everyone, enjoy their company. They could have his divine presence and everything. So we find on different occasions a very, very strong language where he says his knowledge of Brahman. He had this expression, chaktu, is spitting, chaktu. So as if I spit on that knowledge of Brahman. Now, how can anybody say that? This knowledge of Brahman, sometimes Thakur would say, this is the one thing that can't be expressed in words. This is the very highest thing. So we can't take this literally. We have to take this as meaning that, Mother, don't let me lose consciousness of this external world and get the mind merged in Brahman, that I want to be on a little lower level so I can enjoy the company of the devotees. Don't make me unconscious, Mother, with the knowledge of Brahman. Don't give me Brahmajnana. I am but thy child. So we have that line, very important line from that Ram Prasad song, that I don't want to become sugar, I want to taste sugar. And now the dualist will say, forget about becoming sugar, it's impossible. There'll always be that relationship. The Jnani will say, I want to become sugar. That's my real nature. The devotee who has this understanding of the harmony between knowledge and devotion will say, yes, I know that in reality I am one with the sugar, but let me have that little sense of distinction so I can enjoy the taste of it. So this was really Thakur's attitude most of the time. Not that there's not joy in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. There's such joy that he could hardly resist having the mind go up there. But he wanted this other type of joy, this company of the devotees and everything. So he would pray, the Mother, let me have a little bit of this duality to see this play of yours and to enjoy the company of the devotees. Don't give me Brahmajnana. I am but thy child. I am easily worried and frightened. I want a mother. A million salutations to the knowledge of Brahman. Give it to those who seek it, O Anandamayi, O blissful mother. Uttering loudly the word Anandamayi, he burst into tears and said, Mother, this is a song, of course, this is the grief that sorely grieves my heart, that even with thee for mother, and though I'm wide awake, there should be robbery in my house. Again he said to the Divine Mother, what wrong have I done, Mother? Do I ever do anything? Okay, so now there'll be different attitudes again. And I don't think we should take this as a real question. What wrong have I done, Mother? Of course he hasn't done anything wrong. There has to be either it's an accident or there's some hidden purpose for it, but it's not that because of some bad action that he has some bad karma, he had to fall and break his arm. So this is a little bit of a play that he's having. But first he's asking this question, and then he's saying, but Mother, I don't do anything anyhow. I do as you make me do. I'm an instrument. So why did this happen? He said, "What wrong have I done, mother? Do I ever do anything? It is thou, mother, who doest everything. I am the machine, and thou art its operator." This is uh, a second attitude of the worshippers of the Divine Mother. See, and these are all based on these beautiful songs of Ram Prasad, Kamalakanta, and others. That when there's a little feeling of duality, then the child depending entirely on the mother, and when that goes a little bit higher, then uh, I'm simply an instrument in the hands of mother, and a little bit higher, mother alone is doing everything through this body. He had all these moods, different moods at different times. Uh, he seemed to feel that being the instrument, mother's the operator, that this was the mood that he was generally in, or very often in. And she would supply the words. He would speak. She would supply the words. Sometimes she would speak through him, but anyhow, it would be his voice. It was this play. Who was doing it? Is it the mother? He would also get confused sometimes. Mother, are you feeding me or am I feeding you? Beautiful play of how the mind can, yes, go back and forth between slightly higher levels and lower levels. It's fascinating how his mind would work that way. Even here, first he's saying, "What have I done wrong?" As if I am your child. I must have done something wrong. You punished me. That attitude, and then, but do I do anything? You're the one, mother. You're the one who does everything. I am the machine, and you are the operator. Turakal smiling. See that you don't fall. Now he's joking. See that you don't fall. Don't be piqued and cheat yourself. Again, addressing the mother, Sri Ramakrishna said, "Do I weep because I'm hurt? Not at all." So this abhiman is not that his arm hurts, but why did mother allow it to happen? That's the real thing. That am I not a good child? Is that not your obligation to your child to make sure that I don't fall? This type of attitude. Do I weep because I'm hurt? Not at all. And then he sings the song again. Mother, this is the grief that sorely grieves my heart, that even with thee for mother, and though I'm wide awake, there should be robbery in my house. So things happen. Thakur sometimes uh, gives a very interesting, we wonder, why do we get diseases and suffering and all things that happen? Sometimes he simply says that you live in a house, you have to pay the tax for it. Now that means that whether there's the karmic reason for it, divine reason for it, or just this is the nature of the body. It's going to wear down. It's going to break down someplace. It's going to be a painful thing. We have to accept that. Thakur gives us all of these different ways of understanding things. We choose the one that appeals to us, and we appreciate all of them. The master was again talking and laughing like a child. See, when his mind comes down from some ecstatic mood, very often it doesn't go down all the way. We see this very often when he had his throat cancer, that he would go into ecstasy, come down, and he'd say, "Now I'm all right." And as if the pain isn't there anymore. It's on one side, I'm on the other side. So he had that ability. The master was again talking and laughing like a child who, though ailing, sometimes forgets his illness and laughs and plays about. Master to the devotees. It will avail you nothing unless you realize Satchidananda. There's nothing like discrimination and renunciation. Now, how Thakur can go back and forth. Before everything is everything is mother's will, whatever you do. And now there's the language of the highest type of jnana yoga. There's a viveka vairagya. These are the two elemental things, the two most significant qualities or attributes that we need for this jnana yoga, that we have to have great dispassion for the world, great longing for God, is vairagya, and we have to have a very sharp intellect that can distinguish what's real, what's unreal. So, and now if we want this highest type of knowledge, so how everything was blended in his mind. He didn't see any type of contradiction between speaking about praying to Mother on the one hand, and then the next minute talking about this discrimination, dispassion, and everything. The worldly man's devotion to God is momentary, like a drop of water on a red-hot frying pan. Perchance he looks at a flower and exclaims, "Ah, what a wonderful creation of God." One must be restless for God. See, now back to bhakti. Is restless for God. This is with some idea of the personal God that can be realized and experienced. If a son clamors persistently for his share of the property, his parents consult with each other and give it to him, even though he is a minor. God will certainly listen to your prayers if you feel restless for him. Now, again, this him, this is Bengali doesn't have this the gender distinction with these words. In Thakur's mind, I'm sure he's thinking her. Of course, they don't, as I say, it'll be the same word. But in English, we have to choose what to write. In those days, it would have sounded very odd to translate it that way. But generally, unless Thakur specifically talking about Sri Krishna, Sri Rama, something like that, when he's talking about God in general and revealing himself, herself, my feeling is that in his mind is this idea of Divine Mother. That was the most suitable way of looking upon God for him, the one that appealed to his personality and his spiritual attitude most. So God will certainly listen to your prayers if you feel restless for him. The Vakulata, of course, this is the thing that Thakur emphasized more than anything else. If he talks about prayer, if he talks about meditation, japa, sadhana in general. One time he was asked, what is the purpose of sadhana? Why do we do spiritual practice? And he gave the answer, because it increases our longing for God. Vakulata. And that is the thing that will lead to realization. Everything else will increase that. This is Vairagya. Why do we want dispassion for the world? It increases longing for God. Why do we want this type of discrimination where we see everything is dreamlike or transitory? So we'll have that longing for realization. So it was Vakulata was really the most significant thing for Sri Ramakrishna. God will certainly listen to your prayers if you feel restless for him. Since he has begotten us, surely we can claim our inheritance from him. Yeah, Thakur used to say, force your demands on God, like a child. Every right, this is our very own parents, this inheritance is due to us. It's even legally. We may have to wait till we reach the age of majority, but this is our right. Our birthright. This God realization is our birthright. This was that attitude that he had. That is not something that we have to beg and plead for, that please be gracious to us. No, you have to do it. And I want it early. I don't want to wait till I'm 21. I want it early. So he said, if we can do that, like the small child, the parents will even give the inheritance at an earlier age. Since he has begotten us, surely we can claim our inheritance from him. He is our father, our own mother. We can force our demand on him. We can say to him, reveal thyself to me, or I shall cut my throat with a knife. Now, this, of course, we know is that play that took place with Thakur's first vision of the Divine Mother Kali, that he really felt that without the vision, life wasn't worth living, and that he saw the knife hanging on the wall in the Kali temple, went to reach for it, to Whether he would have done it, we doubt it much. But anyhow, that was the thing. When he felt at least life wasn't worth living without the vision of mother, then he had that vision. We have one other instance of this. I'm sure there are many, but one that is rather well known with Swami Premeshanandaji. He was Holy Mother's disciple. I mentioned his name many times. A very wonderful soul. Of course, I had never met him, but a very poet. He wrote many beautiful songs. But he went through a period of intense sadhana, intense spiritual discipline, and one day he just reached that stage where he had to have that realization, and really the same thing. Mother, if you don't reveal yourself, I'll take my life. And not to cut his throat with it, but he had a rope with a noose at the end that was attached to the rafter in the house where he stayed, and ready to take his own life. And he had a vision of mother that night, because it was real. If we do it, it's nothing will happen. It has to be 100% genuine, 100% genuine. Sri Ramakrishna taught the devotees how to call on the Divine Mother. Master, I used to pray to her in this way: O Mother, O blissful one, reveal thyself to me, thou must. Again, I would say to her, O Lord of the lowly, O Lord of the universe, surely I am not outside thy universe. I am bereft of knowledge. I am without discipline. I have no devotion. I know nothing. Thou must be gracious and reveal thyself to me. Thus the Master taught the devotees how to pray. They were deeply touched. Tears filled Mahimacharun's eyes. Sri Ramakrishna looked at him and sang, Cry to your mother Shyama with a real cry, O mind. And how can she hold herself from you? How can Shyama stay away? Several devotees arrived from Shivpur. Since they'd come from a great distance, the Master could not disappoint them. He told them some of the essentials of spiritual life. Master, now we'll go right back to this Jnana Yoga. Huh? See, he goes right from this, first of all, don't give me this Brahma Jnana. Then he goes to this viveka, vairagya, discrimination and renunciation. Then he goes to this praying to mother, and now he'll switch back again. Master, God alone is real and all else is illusory. The garden and its owner, God and its splendor. But people look at the garden only. How few seek out the owner. Sir, what is the way, Master? Discrimination. So now we'll get the same viveka between the real and the unreal. One should always discriminate to the effect that God alone is real and the world unreal, and one should pray with sincere longing. Now, the sadasad vichar, discrimination between sat, real, and asat, unreal. Now, I mention this almost every time because I think it's important that Thakur very rarely talked about this asat as illusory. We get that translation here. Illusory. It's I won't say it's a bad translation, but if we want to be sticklers, that Thakur is saying satya and anitya. He's using that terminology here, and it's significant. The distinction is significant because it implies a whole different type of understanding of the relationship between the absolute and the relative, nitya and lila, which was also one of the great teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. So whenever he talks about mithya, and mithya, that can be translated as illusory. But even that, there'll be so many different ways of understanding it. There's our famous verse that gives the gist of Vedanta, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. This term is used. Sri Ramakrishna uses it when he's referring to that doctrine. When he's talking about just in general, then he'll almost always uses anitya or avastu. He likes these terms. Sometimes sad asad. These are all terms. They're Sanskrit terms, I think, found in all Indian languages. Uh, I think almost everyone will know vastu and avastu. Vastu, avastu. Substance, something substantial, insubstantial, you can say. Nitya, anitya, eternal, transitory. Sad asad, being, non-being, something like that. We even have, I know in this padartha and apadartha. I know in Bengali, apadartha is used for a worthless person. Yeah, yeah. But metaphysically, it'll be the same type of thing. Something has substance, something has no substance. We say even a man of substance, or someone with no, a worthless fellow, something like that. So these are distinctions that have an implication of a whole metaphysical system. So uh, each term will go with a different term that's used for the feminine side. We talked about this many times, the masculine side, feminine side, that there'll be Brahman and Maya, there'll be Ishwara, Shakti, there'll be all different, these pairs that Thakur says everything is explained by the union of this, what's considered a masculine and a feminine. Uh, we shouldn't take it too literally, but anyhow, that if the Advaitins, they talk about this Nirguna Brahman as the one side, then the other side will be Maya. And if we talk about Maya, then we can talk about Mithya, this universe. Now, what exactly does it mean that somehow that there's some covering of the ignorance that it makes something appear to be what it's not? So if we use this illustration, the snake and the rope never becomes a snake. There's this is just falsely perceived to be a snake. So there's no real Brahman, just remains what it is. It's a very difficult doctrine to understand. Just remains what it is. It appears to be the universe. So then we can say some type of mithya. Now, Sri Ramakrishna, he prefers this idea of Shakti. If we say that it's the Shakti, the power that belongs to Brahman, then we can say that this whole universe is anitya, that it's transitory. We won't say it's mithya, it's not completely false. We won't even say avastu, because the substance behind it is Brahman itself. But avastu, in a sense, because Thakur uses that term, that in itself there's no substance to it. Now, all of these things, these terms, have a psychological value to it. If we say something is avastu, that means that there's something hollow about it. It doesn't mean that there's no matter underlying the appearance of these physical objects. It means that there's something incapable of, if we're looking for something that will really fulfill our desires in life, that this won't do it. That there's something hollow about this type of enjoyment. That's also avastu. Now, this idea of anitya, this is what Thakur emphasizes. I think this is a very, very beautiful way of understanding this idea of Maya, that things are just constantly in a state of flux, that every second things are changing, every second we're changing, that this whole life itself will end one day, that it's dreamlike, but not in a metaphysical sense dreamlike. In a dream, that every object is just a projection of mind. But this, maybe we'll say projection of this cosmic mind, but in any event, it has some internal, external idea that where we don't have to say that this is just figment of my imagination, to understand that it's transitory and to understand that it can't satisfy the deeper longing that we have to fulfill that desire of the heart. There's something within us that feels empty and it needs to be filled, and this is avastu. This can't do it because there's something hollow about it. This is the most important part of this sadasad viveka. Otherwise, we're just philosophers arguing with each other. I don't see much point in all of these big arguments. That is it a projection of this cosmic mind? What we have to deal with this world, and we have to accept the reality of other people and everything. Transitory, and it'll end one day, just like a dream comes to an end. When we die, it'll end, at least for us. We assume it'll continue for others, but at least for us. Uh, so uh, this is one way. The other way of looking at this sadasad vichara is discrimination. What is of ultimate value in life, and what is of temporary enjoyment? This is that shreyas preyas. This is the other way of looking at it. If we want to practice this path of discrimination, we have to ask, what are my priorities in life? What's important to me? What will help me realize that highest goal? What will just be a little diversion, which is maybe harmless, but is not in the long run going to be what I want to achieve in life? And so this is all part of this viveka, this or vichara. These two similar words. So Thakur, he'll say we have to constantly practice this type of vichara, and we have to constantly eliminate this other type that is just philosophical speculation, that just makes us go around in circles. We saw how many times he told him, promise me you won't argue and reason anymore about those things. But at the same time, he'll say we have to constantly practice this other type of discrimination. Otherwise, we get mixed up with the world. We lose our way. We fail to see the ultimate purpose of life. We forget that these are very difficult things to hold on to. Everything will elude our grasp ultimately. That type of happiness that we're striving to realize. So we have to have that type of discrimination. So he says, and I'll go back a little. God alone is real, and all else is illusory. That means anitya. All else is transitory. The garden and its owner. The garden is real, but it's not going to last. It'll have a nice season, and then the next thing you know, that it'll flowers will dry up and everything. It'll be gone. We then have to plant it again. God in His splendor, but people look at the garden only. How few seek out the owner. A devotee, sir, what is the way? Master, discrimination between the real and the unreal. Sadasad vichar. One should always discriminate to the effect that God alone is real and the world anitya. Unreal, illusory, they're all different terms that refer to the same idea with just a slightly different connotation. As I said before, Thakur uses this transitory word. And one should pray with sincere longing. So no contradiction between this devotional practice of prayer and this philosophical idea of discrimination. Devotee, but sir, where's our leisure for these things? Master, those who have the time must meditate and worship. But those who cannot possibly do so must bow down wholeheartedly to God twice a day. Now, time. This is a big question. How do we utilize our time? There's a very nice song, I think Ram Prasad song, where he says, Mother, I find time to do everything else, but I don't find any time to call on you. Andakite Parinath. It's a very nice song. So we always tell ourselves that, no, I don't have any time for doing it. Do we have time to sleep and to eat and make our phone calls and do everything else? Yeah, we find time. So there of course are certain circumstances where we really don't have time, and then we have to do at least what Thakur says, bow down wholeheartedly. But most of the time, it's up to us to carve out some special period for our spiritual practice. The one thing everybody can give up is sleep. There's no one preventing us from getting up early. That's accepted, of course, our own mind. That's the thing. So usually these are a bit lame excuses that I have no time. Thakur, he knew that. But for those who really don't have time, then he says at least bow down, bow down wholeheartedly to God twice a day, morning and evening, we could say. We have that story of Narada, and Narayana says, so he wants to know who is my greatest devotee, and he shows this one farmer early morning. He bows down to in the shrine before the image of the Lord, then goes and works all day long and comes back and bows down again. And Narada is not very impressed. But then Thakur, he teaches them that those who engage all day long, at least to remember twice a day. So this is the minimum we can say, but the point is wholeheartedly, with great sincerity. That is the main thing. He abides in the hearts of all. He knows that worldly people have many things to do. What else is possible for them? You don't have time to pray to God, therefore give him the power of attorney. But all is in vain unless you attain God and see him. Now, this power of attorney again, that we have to make sure that we're not being hypocrites with this. That we say, I give God the power of attorney, then I do whatever I want. There's nothing gained by that. What does it mean, the power of attorney? It means that we have to really feel and deep within our heart that we're doing something at the prompting of the divine somehow. And the only way we can do that is to eliminate any selfish desire. If we eliminate any ulterior motive, any selfish desire, we can feel that maybe I'm acting according to God's will. Don't know. That's about the best that we can do until we really attain some high state. This idea that I'm the instrument and God is the operator. This is for the God realized soul. This is not something that we can practice with the ordinary mind that does everything out of desire and longing for power and enjoyment and fame, all of these different things. That type of mind can't say I'm the instrument, God is the operator. It may be true with that type of mind, but still, then we have to try to practice this type of purification. So this is really an ideal that to reach that state of Jivan Mukti. The Jivan Mukta has no desire to do anything, and just prompted by the divine or whatever presents itself to him or her. That's how the Jivan Mukta will act in the world. Another devotee, sir, to see you is the same as to see God. Now, Thakur again had different moods. Sometimes people would say things like this. He would say, no, don't ever say anything like that. Then other times people would say, the Kali Yuga, that the avatars can never be seen. Then Thakur would smile and say, are you sure? So he would have different moods. So here he says, don't ever say that again. We know that in that certain mood, he couldn't bear anybody praising him too much. And when he would be in the mood of a child of God, then it would be just go against the grain. Guru Baba Karta. He used to say, if anyone addressed him with these three words, that it would be like he was being stung by this type of blowfish or man of war, whatever it is, some stinging fish that is very painful. He couldn't bear that. Don't ever say that again. The waves belong to the Ganges, not the Ganges to the wave. That means I want to think of myself as a part of God, not that God is a part of me or God anything like that, or one with the whole ocean. Let me feel I'm a wave in this ocean. A man cannot realize God unless he gets rid of all such egotistic ideas as I am such an important man or I am so and so. Level the mound of I to the ground by dissolving it with tears of devotion. Devotee. Why has God put us in the world? Now, Thakur, we don't have any ultimate answers for these types of questions. And Thakur will give different answers at different times, depending on his mood, depending on what he thinks will be helpful for the listener. I don't think we can take any of these as Thakur's final opinion, because he'll say different things. Sometimes he'll still simply say, who can understand the ways of God? Here he'll give one possible attitude that we can take, that we may like, we may not like. We may find it helpful, we may not. To perpetuate his creation. Okay, this is the answer we're going to get now. Other times he'll say, so that we can realize God. He'll give different, as I said, different answers. It is his will, his maya. He has deluded man with lust and gold. Devotee. Why has he deluded us? Why has he so willed? Now again, we can say this is maya. There's no real answer for these things. He'll try to give an answer. Master, if but once he should give man a taste of divine joy, then man would not care to lead a worldly life. The creation would come to an end. So one way that we can try to understand that this is necessary, this little maya is necessary for this world to go on. It won't go on otherwise. The grain dealer stores rice in huge bags in his warehouse. Near them, he puts some puffed rice in a tray. This is to keep the rats away. The puffed rice tastes sweet to the rats, and they nibble at it all night. They do not seek the rice itself. So this is a way of saying that we find little bits and pieces of enjoyment in the external world. That's enough so that we don't seek for the real gems within. It's enough. But just think, 1 seer of rice yields 14 seers of puffed rice. How infinitely superior is the joy of God to the pleasure of lust and gold. To one who thinks of the beauty of God, the beauty of even Rambha and Tilotama. These are these apsaras, these 2 celestial dancing girls of exquisite beauty. Appears but the ashes of a funeral pyre. A devotee. Why do we not feel intense restlessness to realize him, to realize God? This is a good question. Master, a man does not feel restless for God until all his worldly desires are satisfied. Okay, now another very important concept, bhoganta. I find great significance in this because it's not so easy to know what it means or how to go about it. Bhoga means enjoyment, anta means end. The end of enjoyment. Bhoganta. Now, for some, it means that we have a list, we have a finite number of things that we have a desire to enjoy, and we enjoy those things, and then we're finished. This is the concept behind the different stages of life. The householder stage of life is meant to fulfill those types of desires, desire for family, desire for career, all of those things, to fulfill those things and be finished with them, to see through them. Then there are other types of desires that is pouring ghee on the fire, that it increases. The more we get, the more we want. We get a little taste of money and fame and power. We want more and more and more. It's some sensual enjoyment. We want more and more and more. How do we get to Bhoganta for that? To reach the end of that? Either we burn our fingers enough so that we know that it's not worth it, or we observe other people, or some grace comes upon us, or we just simply use our willpower, that I know that this is just spiraling out of control. Sometimes we have to hit the bottom. We read with those who have some type of alcohol or drug addiction, that they have this idea, until you reach rock bottom, you won't be able to turn your life around. So there are all different ways of understanding this concept and how we go about it. And for Sri Ramakrishna, he said the little enjoyments fulfill those things, these little desires, fulfill them and get rid of them. Bhoganta, that type of thing. For
But Durbhog is also a bhog. Subhog, you have explained about the Subhog.
Uh-huh.
And but Durbhog, suppose
Okay.
accident,
So
that
yeah,
also
so
bhog.
far we're talking, of course, there's no longing to have bad experiences
Not longing, but
or a desire
suppose
for it.
accident.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
Those
is
actually, those are the things that teach us our lesson when we suffer because of these things. We suffer because of our desires, then we start to see that this is our own misconception that these things can bring enjoyment and everything. Yeah, suffering is the greatest teacher, actually. Durbhog, if we want to look at it that way. Uh, what Thakur is talking about here, I think, I think that's one of the ways that we get over this desire to keep enjoying things when we realize that there's a suffering that follows. Uh, Pariname. We have these verses. Either at the end we find that there's greater enjoyment with spiritual happiness, or we find that there's greater bondage and greater suffering. So when we have these bad, negative experiences, and we have to learn our lesson. Some people don't learn it; they keep sticking their finger in fire. Other people learn it by watching other people. But until we reach that point, and it's not going to be at 100%. We're never going to reach that point where see, desire is such a big category that when there's no little desire, we'll always have some little things that we want. Those. I'm not talking about that, but to reach that point where we really uh, only desire something higher. Now we care only for God. That doesn't mean that we won't enjoy a nice meal or go for a walk and see a sunset and all. That doesn't mean that we can still appreciate and enjoy those things.
But
But deep down, the only real longing is God realization.
here, karma theory is not telling about
Karma theory, of course, is all
something to
tied in with
suffer,
this.
something we have to suffer because of my bad karma in my previous life. So that also Durbhog, right?
Yeah,
Because it's ignorance and here,
so we have two things. One, it will be samskaras that we're born with certain types of desires, and the other will be that that we have a certain amount of enjoyment and suffering that probably is due to us.
due to us, yes.
Yeah, and so there's Bhavan, that can also be that. It can also be that we have to reach the end of our karma. If you, but the problem is we keep creating more and more and more. So we have to also stop creating more karma, and so that's also part of the whole thing. And that's where this discrimination comes in. Stop doing the same things over and over again. Yeah, for some people it's very easy. They're born with very few desires, very pure hearts. There's a good karma, good samskaras. For others, we have to go through a lot of suffering and make a lot of mistakes until we learn our lessons. But the point is somehow to reach this bhoganta, this period where uh, whatever we had to experience, good or bad, is done. But it can't simply be that, oh, let me wait till my karma is done and everything. It also has to be, let me reason and observe and see what am I gaining from all of this? Is it helping me and to achieve what I really want in life? Or is it an obstacle creating more bondage? Is it creating more misery ultimately? And at some point, and at the same time, increases longing for God. So they also work hand in hand. That how do we reach the limits of the worldly enjoyment by increasing this desire for doing spiritual practice and getting a taste of some divine communion, a little taste of it that will also help us. But but this is a very important statement that one does not feel restless for God until all his worldly desires are satisfied. Now, uh, worldly desires. This will have to be see and satisfied. For some people, satisfied it means that we've accomplished it. See, there are two ways to eliminate desires. One is to fulfill them, and the other is to make them disappear. The idea of fulfilling them, we keep getting new ones. So the real thing is to get rid of them. is to somehow have this other, and Thakur always emphasizes the positive, have this longing for God so strong that the others become insignificant to us. A man does not feel restless for God until all his worldly desires are satisfied. He does not remember the mother of the universe until his share of the enjoyment of lust and gold is completed. A child absorbed in play does not seek his mother. But after his play is over, he says, Mother, I must go to my mother. Now, when does the play end? This is the whole thing. It'll be different for different people. If it's just the play of the child, we don't know why. At some point, the child will get tired with the toys and want mother alone. We don't know why and how. This is also a bit of grace when we reach this stage where all desires are fulfilled. But after his play is over, he says, Mother, I must go to my mother. Hridai San was playing with the pigeons, calling to them, Come, Titi. When he had had enough of the play, he began to cry. Then a stranger came and said, Come with me, I will take you to your mother. Unhesitatingly, he climbed on the man's shoulders and was off. Those who are eternally free do not have to enter worldly life. The Nitya Siddha, Sri Ramakrishna talked about a very small class of very special souls who were born from time to time, usually when this avatar comes, that are already born, they've already finished these enjoyments in the past lifetime. Those who are eternally free do not have to enter worldly life. Their desire for enjoyment has been satisfied with their very birth. Okay, we can stop here now. We at the arrival of Dr. Madhusudan after that. Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukambhadhudavikraham Hari Ishavataram Parameshamidhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namama. We bow our heads before Sri Ramakrishna, who is stainless, of infinite nature, whose heart melts in sympathy for his devotees, who is an embodiment of the divine and the Supreme Lord, and ever worthy of our worship. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Cool, you can see yourself. You're in the video. Right?